together, it's not something that we should dread. It should be something that we're excited to do. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited to be here tonight. I'm excited to be with you and have an opportunity to take a look at what God's Word says about our time. And we're going to be talking about, again, our series, Legacy, Family, Values. We're going to be looking at time, but it's important that we spend time together. It's important that we get to know each other. It's important that we work together. It's important that we learn what it means to be light, so that as we leave this place, things change. And one of the things that we're talking about, and this ends the series, is this idea of what is a church family as we make up individual families. What do we value? And we found out that we value relationship over rules. That rules are important, yes, but that relationship, that's the most important thing. With your child, with your wife, with your spouse, with your husband, those things, the relationship is always the most important thing. And last week we took a look at, we looked at words. Okay, there we go. Who knew? I didn't even remember what I talked about last week. No, we looked at words, and today we look at time. So legacy. Okay, remember legacy as we think about legacy, family values. Legacy, what we're talking about here is that when we die, we want our faith to live on past us. And the way that we do is by spending the right kind of time with our family. And then family means whoever's under your roof. Whoever makes up the people that come under your roof, that's your family. And then values, that shows what you think is most important. And so one of the things that you'll know is this has not been a comprehensive list. When we've stopped and talked about relationships, when we've talked about words, when we talk about time, it's not a comprehensive list. You guys need to begin the process of figuring out, as a family, hey, what's important to us? What do we really value? And one of the ways that you find out, look at your time. You want to know what your family values? Take a look at your time. Now, one of the things that I want to do as a side note, I want to be talking a lot to the parents today, but not exclusively. What I want to do is talk to the students for just a moment and just say this. Back at Epic, I taught a message that talked about technology. One of the things that I can't separate in our culture today is the connection between time and technology. Okay? So one of the things that I'm going to ask you guys to do is to begin to look and say, do my parents have to monitor my technology time? Or is that something that I can do? Is that something that I can say, hey, Dad, go through the football, or Mom, let's play this game, or let's do this, or whatever is most important to you. But one of the things that can't happen is technology can't be the go-to as far as parenting, or as you get older, legacy, one of the things that we value is fighting norms. Okay? And the norms of the culture say that when our kids turn to teenagers, they start to split away from us and hate us. Okay? We're going to fight that norm. And one of the ways that we need to do that, students, is remember that the kid I talked to you about last week? That when things weren't going right, I'd whisper to him. One of the things that you guys need to do is to lean in. And I think it's so important as we continue to think about time. So, I want my legacy to live on in my great-grandkids and their great-grandkids and long before it. So hopefully that happens because I have a good relationship with my kids. A Michigan State University study revealed that when 4- and 5-year-olds were offered the choice between giving up television or their fathers, a third opted to give up daddy. Okay? According to another study done by the same university, the average 5-year-old spends 25 minutes a week in close interaction with the father, but 25 hours a week in close interaction with the TV set. So we can see why they might want to do that. There was a man who worked at a factory, and one of his main jobs was to blow the factory whistle at 5 p.m. to indicate that the workday was over. He walked to work each day, and as he passed the jewelry store with a beautiful grandfather clock, he displayed it, and each morning he stopped and set his pocket watch to that grandfather clock. One morning, the store owner was out front sweeping the sidewalk, and the factory worker asked him how he kept such accurate time on the grandfather clock, and the jeweler said, "Oh, I just set it every afternoon when the factory whistle blows at 5. You see, that could lead to some trouble. But people, and I'm talking about people, I'm talking about us, we live by the clock. Because time is important to all of us. Benjamin Franklin says, and I love it, don't squander time because it's the thing that life is made of. So as we complete this series, let's talk about the importance of spending time with our family. Many frustrated people seem to always be fighting the clock. I don't know if you guys do this, but I think the worst invention ever is the snooze on the alarm, okay? Let me just give you a side note here, okay? Sleep as long as you can. When the alarm goes off, get up, turn it off, and then go, okay? If you keep hitting the snooze bar, you're just aggravating somebody in the house. So just get rid of that thing. So, but we sleep as late as we can, hit the snooze button 5 times, rush frantically to work. Some of us get in the car, make phone calls in the car, do our makeup. Some of you shave. I hope that nobody does both of those. But we live extremely busy lives. The interesting thing is when we take a look at our lives and then we compare it to the life of Jesus, it never seems like Jesus was ever in a hurry. This was the guy that had the most important job in the world. His job was to redeem the world, okay? But it seems like he was never in a hurry. It didn't seem like he was overly busy. He never ran. He had time to put his hands on the little children and bless them. Time, interestingly enough, time was the friend of Jesus. And think about that. He only had a 3-year ministry. But time was his friend. The Bible gives us some great insight into how time can become your friend rather than your enemy. You see, God exists in a realm that's not bound by time or space. He doesn't wear a watch, carry a smartphone. He's the creator of time, and he's greater than time. Moses does a great job, and you guys will remember Moses, besides the fact that Moses led God's people out of Israel. Moses had this intimate relationship with God in such a way that the Bible tells us that Moses talked with God like he would talk to a friend. I think that's cool. I'm like, if I could be somebody to be able to talk to God like I talk to a friend, that's pretty cool. But he talks about this, and Moses does in Psalm 90. It says this, "For 1,000 years in your sight are like a day that has just gone by, or like a watch in the night. The length of our days is 70 or 80 years, if we have the strength. Yet there spans but trouble and sorrow, for they quickly pass, and we fly away." And then he skips to verse 12. "Teach us to number our days aright, that we may gain a heart of wisdom." Moses is taking a look at what God says and thinks is important, and shows that we should treasure and value our time. We number our years, and some of you don't even remember how old you are, okay? But instead of just numbering our years, God says, number your days. They're important. How valuable is an hour? Ask a businessman who was delayed an hour and missed an important business deal. How valuable is 1 minute? Ask the man who had a heart attack in the restaurant and the EMT happened to be sitting at the next table and getting the CPR. How valuable is a second? Ask the person who hesitated for a second before swerving onto the oncoming car. How valuable is a fraction of a second? Ask the Olympic swimmer who missed qualifying by 6/10 of a second. You see, time really is valuable, but time with your family is even more valuable. You see, the most valuable asset that we have is to share with our family the gift of time. Here's one way to look at it, okay? You guys have seen these before, right? These are my marbles, okay? And I've lost a few of them, okay? Have you guys ever seen the movie Hook? My favorite line in the whole movie in Hook is, Toons is out looking for his marbles, and he says, "I lost me marbles." Okay, so I've got my marbles here. Does anybody know how many marbles are in here? This would be really impressive because I taught about this like 3 years ago. I want to see if anybody was listening. Wrong.
969.
No. 936. Good try. All right. So there's not, and I counted every single one of them, and I know for a fact Upstairs, 936. All right. Close. Okay, so 936. This represents, for you that have kids, you have 936 weekends with your kids from birth till they graduate. 936. Okay? So I went and did my math. Okay? Our pizza is getting older. Okay? I have 173 left. That goes by fast. So when we begin to take a look at the time that we have with our kids, it's not very long. Okay? Kids, as you're getting, and students, as you're getting ready to leave the house, some of you are like, can't wait till I'm 18, I'm leaving. Okay? Don't have that attitude. Choose. Please leave. I mean, that's all. But don't have the attitude that you're ready to get out. Enjoy the time with your family. Lean in. 936, that's all you get. Okay? So it begins the process of understanding that we've got to number our days so we can have a heart of wisdom. If we don't, well, things just aren't important. Oh, well, I just won't spend time with them this weekend. I'll just let it go. Parents who love their children learn to spell love differently. Instead of spelling it T-H-I-N-G-S, they learn to spell love T-I-M-E. Newsweek magazine in April 3rd, 1989 reported the response of baseball's great Pete Rose to an article in Gentleman's Quarterly, in which two of his children said Rose was a horrible father. Rose said to that response, he said, I'm a great father. I just bought my daughter a new Mercedes-Benz last week. If that's the measure of fatherhood, then most of us have failed miserably. Sometimes we get stuck on the provision of material things when that's not really what our kids want or need. Here's the deal. If time is the most valuable asset you got, don't think for a second that it'll be easy to give time. The enemy doesn't want that. It's something that he's going to fight hard against. Again, if you try to figure out time on your own, you'll fail. You need the Lord to reorient your heart. And for me, I don't know if you're like this, but it starts with a simple yes. Even when I don't want to. Yes, I will throw the football. Yes, I will help you with your homework. Yes, I will help you paint your fingernails. Yes, I will put those leotards. Ooh, okay, all right. You get the idea. Sometimes, and it's the hardest thing for me to do as an adult, is to enter their world. But that's what they need, okay? If we're talking about time, we're talking about good time. Quality time. Quality time is an overused word, so I don't really want to use that. Just understanding that we use time to enter into their world. Play a game with them. Play something that's important to them. Not always what you want to do. You guys remember the story of the little boy whose dad was always working? One day the boy asked, Dad, how much money do you earn in an hour? The impatient dad says, I don't know, I guess I make about $50 an hour when I'm working. After a couple of weeks doing odd jobs around his neighborhood, the little boy approached his dad one evening and said, Dad, here's $25. Can I buy 30 minutes of your time? You see, you can make more money, but you can't make more time. Have you ever heard the expression, time is money? Well, it's not true. Time is much more valuable than money. It may be hard to make more money, but it can be done. But it's totally impossible to make more time. Time is more valuable than money, especially in our society. Time is a resource that is non-renewable, non-transferable. You can't store it up, slow it down, hold it up, divide it, or give it up. You can't hoard it or save it for a rainy day. When it's lost, it's unrecoverable. When you kill time, remember, it has no resurrection. That's from A.W. Tozer. Let me say it another way. Those who spend time with the people that they love and those who do not all have the same amount of time in which to do so. You see, legacies, if we want our faith to live on in time, it starts with time. We all have exactly the same amount of time. There are 86,400 seconds in a day. What if someone gave you today $86,400 with one caveat? you had to spend it all in that day, and any money left over had to be surrendered. The only caveat would be that there is no promise of money tomorrow. What would you do with that? What would you do with that money? $86,400. If you knew you weren't going to have it tomorrow, you'd probably be pretty wise in investing that, wouldn't you? You know, I may not have this, so I'm going to take that $86,400 and do something really good with it. Maybe a college fund or something like that. But you're going to spend that wisely. Time's the same way. You aren't promised a fresh supply tomorrow, so choose to invest it wisely. So where are you investing most of your time? If I were to ask that question, you had time to do that, and maybe this is your homework for the day. Where are you investing your time? Where are you spending your time? What's most important to you? If I were to walk around with you in the times where you have some free time and watch what you do, give me 10 days, I can tell you what's most important to you. Simply by what you do. I don't have to pull your checkbook out. Okay? I can just walk around and see what you do. See, there are 168 hours in each week. The average person will spend about 56 of those hours sleeping, about 24 of those hours in eating and personal hygiene. It's a lot of personal hygiene, by the way. And about 50 of those hours working or traveling to work. That means there are 35 hours a week of discretionary time. Where do those hours go? But if I were to follow you around and tell you what's most important, you might not like it. You might not agree with it. But for a lot of us, our phone is the most important thing in our life. Ouch, that's hit me, okay? I don't know about you. So how much of the discretionary time are you spending with your family? A study of 1,500 households at the University of Michigan found mothers working outside the home spend an average of 11 minutes a day on weekdays with their kids, 30 minutes a day on weekends with their children, not including mealtime. Fathers, here's one for you. Fathers spend an average of 8 minutes a day on weekdays and 14 minutes a day on weekends in different activities with their children. We want to know why we have lots of issues throughout our society? There's your answer. The time we receive on earth comes from God. We only manage it. Paul writes in Ephesians 5:14 through 16. Wake up, sleeper. Rise from the dead, and Christ will shine upon you. Be careful then how you live. Not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. I don't know if you guys know who the greatest running back to ever play the game of football. Julie, do you know who it is? Emmitt Smith, that's right. Very good. All right. He's the greatest football running back ever in the history of football. He was not the biggest or the fastest or the strongest, but what he excelled at was running with his eyes open and seeing holes as they open and running through them. That's the way we should live. We should make the most of every opportunity. We should be looking for those opportunities to invest our time wisely and dart through them. When an opportunity passes, it can't be reclaimed. It's gone forever. So if you don't manage your time, someone else will. The most important time you'll invest will be with your family. Many of you have heard the song, The Cat's in the Cradle. I'm going to read a couple of verses from that because I love the way that it captures this idea of how important family time is. Part of it says, my child arrived just the other day. He came into the world in the usual way, but there were planes to catch, bills to pay. He learned a lot, and he learned to walk while I was still away. He was walking before I knew it, and as he grew, he said, I'm going to be like you, Dad. You know I'm going to be like you. My son turned 10 just the other day. He said, thanks for the ball, now come on, let's play. Can you teach me to throw? I said, not today. I got a lot to do. He said, that's okay. And he walked away, and he smiled, and he said, you know, I'm going to be like you, Dad. You know I'm going to be like you. The final verse says this, I've long since retired, and my son's moved away. I called him up just the other day. I said, I'd like to see you, son, if you don't mind. He said, I'd love to, Dad, if I can find the time. You see, my new job's a hassle, and the kids have the flu. But it's sure nice talking to you, Dad. It's been real nice talking to you. As I hung up the phone, it occurred to me he'd grown up to be just like me. my boy was just... Maybe you've heard the song, but there's the rest of the story. Harry Chapin's wife, Sandy, actually wrote the words to the song, and when their son Josh was born. It became a self-fulfilling prophecy. When their son was 7, Harry was performing 200 concerts a year, and Sandy asked him what he was going to do to take time to be with his son. Harry promised to take some time at the end of the summer. He never made it. That summer, a truck hit Harry's Volkswagen Bug, and he was killed. So we have to learn to say no to family robbers. You see, there's always something else to do. There'll always be somewhere else you can be. There's always something else that'll be better or seem better at the time. But we have to learn the value of a 2-letter word, saying no. You need to understand that when you say yes to your family time, you've already said no to everything else. Don't allow interruptions and other demands detract from family time. 1,000 years from now, what is going to be more important, spending time with your family or watching a television show? I love this story about Ken Griffey Jr. He was invited to the Players' Choice Awards, where he was to be awarded the Player of the Decade Award. Seems like a pretty big deal. It was on national television. He beat out players like Barry Bonds, Mark McGuire, who were juicing. When he found out the award was to be given, he didn't attend. He had something more important to do. His 5-year-old son, Trey, was playing in his first baseball game, and Ken wasn't going to miss it. We got to say no. Because our family time is short, so make happy memories. 936 years is what you got. 936 weekends is what you got. If you're Methuselah. Help them find out what they like to do and do it. Don't make it about you. Find out what they like to do and choose to spend that time with them. James 4:14 says it this way. You don't even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You're a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. You see, our time really is short, and it is running out. I don't know if you guys know and I want to conclude with this, if you know the Christian artist Wayne Watson. When I was in high school, he was kind of the hit thing in Christian music, and I heard this song back in high school, and it's amazing to me that I really like the tune. I'm not going to sing it because you guys will throw things at me. But I always liked the tune, and then I became a dad, and the words really changed. It's called Watercolor Ponies. It's one of my very favorites, and some people cry when you stop and look at the words. It says, there are watercolor ponies in my refrigerator door, in the shape of something that I don't really recognize. Brush with careful little fingers and put proudly on display, a reminder to us all how time flies. Seems an endless mound of laundry and a stairway laced with toys gives a blow-by-blow reminder of the war, that we fight for their well-being, for their greater understanding, to impart a holy reverence to the Lord. But I wonder, maybe what will we do when it comes back to me and you? They look a little less like little boys every day. Well, the pleasure of watching the children growing is mixed with a bitter cup of knowing the watercolor ponies will one day ride away. Our kids do ride away. They live their own lives. So that's why you need to invest a lot of time with your family. Treasure your family time. Invest it wisely. Manage your time as a gift. Let's pray. Lord, as we think about our time, it's really hard to give up. I pray that you'd help us learn to be selfless instead of selfish. Lord, when we walk out these doors, will you give us the ability, the guts, to use our words wisely, to make relationships the most important thing, and will you help us figure this time thing out? Lord, whether we're a student, whether we're a kid, whether we're a parent, whether we're an adult, Lord, help us to learn to spend time with people because they're the ones that matter the most. Help us to say no when we need to. Help us to say yes to them. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.